So a lot of the actual code that I did for this graduation cap is fairly simple. I'll start off with what I started with. So this is just the animated GIF sample sketch that comes with the Teensy, or not the Teensy, but the Smart Matrix library. So it's just in here, and it's the animated GIF sketch. And basically what this does, I'll go through it really quickly, is it plays back GIFs on the SD card in a GIF folder for a certain amount of times, and it's for a certain amount of time. In this case, it's 10 seconds before it flips through to the next one. So that's what that. So basically, just what it does, just runs through here, looks for files ending with GIF in a GIF folder, and then it assigns them an index number ranging from 0 onwards. So what it does here is, let's find it. So it'll randomly pick an index number, that'll be the GIF that it starts on, and then it'll wait until it's reached that time limit, and then it'll switch to the next one. So it's pretty simple, and then once it gets to the end, it just resets it to 0 so that it loops around. With what I wanted to do, I wanted to make a couple changes, because obviously I wanted to be able to control which GIF is able to display when, as well as do some scrolling text across it. So my code for it is basically the same as the GIF stuff, I just did a little bit of modification. So let's see here. So I also added this hardware serial, which is the Bluetooth module. So if we look up here, just setting that up, I believe the Teensy has 6, maybe 5 or 6 different serial ports, 4 of which are used for the display, and then one is the USB communication, and another is just left open, so that's what I have the Bluetooth hooked up to. So what I'm having it do here is basically, if there's a Bluetooth connection, then we'll connect and we'll constantly be looking for data. There's just a little delay here to start up the connection, because otherwise some things got a little bit messy and it wasn't always looking. It was reading the data too quickly, and it wasn't taking in the individual characters like it should have. It was throwing them together into strings of characters, which wasn't what I wanted. This next part checks to see if the incoming serial stream is an integer. So what I did is to have the different GIFs display, I assign them to those index numbers like we're in the last one, and now by sending one of those numbers to the Teensy, I'm just able to recall that GIF. So if I send it a 0 here, then it'll recall this GIF that is at index 0, and same with 1, and so on. So I have 4 set to blank, so that way I could just blank it. And then there's the different animations and everything. And the only thing that I wish I could have changed is that it has to go through the entire animation before it can switch to the next one, but I'm sure that's something I could have fixed. So if we look here, basically when we send it an integer or a 0, because for some reason 0 is not an integer in the toInt function, I couldn't figure that out, so I just hard-coded the 0 in there. Then it'll let us know that we got it, which you can see on the screen here. Just lets us know, oh, there it goes. Lets us know that we got the command. That was mostly for debugging purposes, but I left it on there just because it was pretty handy to be able to see. And then what it will do is it will take a short delay. It'll set the index number, which basically changes the GIF, delay for a second, and then change the screen to black. So this was important because a lot of the GIFs had transparency on them, and if it didn't reset the screen, then the previous GIF would show through. So swap buffers is also just a function of the matrix of the display to allow it to reset, and then it grabs the new GIF name by the index, and it will reset this string here, which is what the Bluetooth was reading. So it'll take this message string is just what's coming through the Bluetooth serial, so that's what it's checking to see whether or not it's an integer, so it'll reset it at the end. So another feature that I added was the ability to display scrolling text, which is another built-in feature of the Smart Matrix display. It just wasn't in this GIF function, so I had to build my own little else statement here. So the way to display text is to put an asterisk before it, and then what it does is it reads that message, which is a string, finds the character at 0, which is the first character, checks if it's an asterisk, and if it is, then it'll blank the screen and it'll set the index to 0. So 0 or 4, I mean. So 4 is that blank GIF. For some reason, I couldn't get this blanking to work properly. With a little bit more time, I probably would have been able to figure it out, but I was running pretty short on time setting this up, so I just put a blank GIF in there so that way I could just blank the screen when I needed to do things like this. And then, so here it is, just setting that blank GIF, and then it goes through the message and it removes the first character because that's the asterisk. We don't want to display that. It takes the string and turns it into a character array because the message, the scrolling text within the matrix function needs a character array to be able to display. It can't display strings. So I got caught up on that for a little bit, but once I figured that you had to split it out. And then this here just sets the color of the scrolling text, and as well as how it's moving across the speed that it's moving at, and the font size and such. So if I do that on here, so I put an asterisk and then type in a message. And then send it. Then we'll see it scroll across the screen. Ideally, I would have liked to add more functionality to this. I would have liked some sort of app that I could use instead of this Bluetooth terminal, so that way I could like select different images. But I've really never written an Android app before, so I just didn't have enough time to try and learn that while going. And then also some way to change like the color of the text scrolling across, or different size fonts or something on it. But I really just didn't have enough time, so it's all pretty simple modifications. And last year is just this closing else statement where if it's not an integer, or if it's not something with an asterisk, then it'll just let me know that whatever's being put in is not recognized at the time, or it's not valid, so it'll blank the message anyway. Yeah, I wanted to eventually, the reason that the text is an asterisk and not just the text is because I wanted to be able to give it commands as well. Things like setting the rotation of the message going across the screen, or changing font size on the fly, those kinds of things like that. So I was hoping that I would be able to build these commands in here, and then if I did develop an Android application, it would just be sending these text commands across the Bluetooth serial. I figured that would be the easiest way to do it. Probably not the best way, but I was pretty short on time, so that's just trying to find the easiest way to do all of this stuff. So that's the basics of it. I'll put this code somewhere so that people can get to it if you want to try this out on your own. But it's really not anything complicated, and I'm sure it's not the best way of doing this, so I would suggest someone start from scratch and kind of work their way through it like I did, and find a better solution to this problem. But I'll put it up there if anyone wants to tinker around with it, try and fix some of my errors, and see what you can do with it.